indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
John Douglas.
Here.
Michael Howard. Here. Michelle Hayes. Here. Ryan Horvath. Steve Sensi. Here.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Any discussion? Roll call?
John Douglas.
Yes.
Michael Howard. Yes. Michelle Hayes. Yes. Ryan Horvath. Steve Sensi. Yes. Vote is 5-0.
I'm going to start with a brief opening statement. In June of this year, our board approved a return to learn plan, which included an optional masking policy. Last week, 2 students tested positive for COVID-19 at our high school. Following the recommendations of the Lake County General Health District, we quarantined approximately 250 students. To be clear, we did not have an outbreak, but the large number of quarantines were very disruptive. We've been asked why the football game went on as scheduled. Those students who are quarantined from school are also quarantined from school activities. So canceling the game would have unnecessarily impacted hundreds of students who were not exposed to COVID, but are involved in the game, band, etc., as well as all the family members who attend those events. Over the long weekend, I was contacted by individual board members who wanted to have a meeting to reconsider a masking policy. We issued our legally required notice to the media and anyone who's asked to receive notices for board meetings. We also updated the district's website to reflect the new meeting in the calendar and in the Board of Education sections. We only have 2 agenda items today. The first is the masking policy, which would apply inside of district buildings for students, staff, and visitors. The second is a blended learning declaration for the 2021-2022 school year, allowing for remote learning if necessary. There is no current plan to implement remote learning district-wide. Although school boards are not required to have public participation sessions, our board allows for a 30-minute session. Each speaker is allotted up to 5 minutes. We will be enforcing our policy this evening, given the larger than usual attendance expected and has turned out. We ask those who would like to speak to register ahead of time. To be clear, we did not ask that comments be submitted ahead of time, just the name of the speaker. We will not be able to hear from everyone who registered. We will recognize speakers in the order in which the requests were received. It is important to note that this is not a question and answer session, and we will not be debating with audience members. This is an opportunity to address the Board of Education on the items on today's agenda. We ask each speaker to be brief so as to allow for more participation. We ask that the audience give each speaker their time to speak uninterrupted and refrain from the unruly behavior we've unfortunately seen at these meetings in other communities. Please respect those basic guidelines so we don't have to end the public participation session prematurely. Lastly, be assured that the board has considered the dozens of emails that we have received on both sides of the masking issue. We've considered the articles, studies, theories, etc. So we're now going to begin with our first speaker, Kimberly Sweeney. If you could please come to the podium and you can speak. All right, Elizabeth Brainerd.
604 Lockwood Road here in Madison. I've been in these meetings before. You've received my emails. I've tried to be kind and compassionate because I know we're in a hard spot. I love this community. I was born and raised in this community. I graduated in 1999, completed a college degree and a master's degree, and chose to move back home to raise my family here. So again, I don't want to create a fight, but just voice that here's the thing I keep coming back to. If I need heart surgery, I go to a surgeon. If I need plumbing work done, I've learned to call a plumber. And so when it comes to public health, I keep falling back to the experts. And I know there's many here who we can disagree. We feel like this has become political. My heart surgery isn't political, my plumbing work isn't political, public health isn't political. If we err on the side of masking, we make people angry, but we potentially save the life and health of a child. My child, who is a student at this very school, who is choosing to be masked, he doesn't mind the mask, he loves the mask, but it doesn't keep him safe unless everybody is masked. That's what studies have shown and proven. And so I'm here just to voice that again, that I would love for us, I was taught in this school district to follow science and follow facts. And that's what I'm calling on us to do again, is to follow the experts who are telling us. The 6 largest children's hospitals in the state of Ohio are pleading with us to mask because they're seeing numbers rise in children and hospitalizations, and though thank God there are many, very few deaths, we don't know the long-term effects for children's health. At the last board meeting, somebody in the public had made a comment about there's only been 7 deaths. Well, thank God, but my heart hurts for those 7 families who I think would not feel as casual about the death of their children as we did in that board meeting. And I would hate for any of our children, not just mine, but any of them to be in an intensive care unit, because we had a chance here to follow the science, like we teach our children in school to do here, and just put a mask on until we feel like we can, and we can debate, but I'll tell you, my child is in this elementary school and isn't even age eligible for a vaccine. So he has no hope of even being vaccinated until that's approved. So at least at the elementary level, I'm begging that we please take a look at this to keep our kids in school, to keep them avoiding these disruptions, and to keep them safe. And the last thing I'll say is, I said this in my email, I work at Lake Catholic High School now, part-time. And one of the email responses back to a friend of mine was, some of these schools are mandating masks to avoid the quarantine. That's not the case at Lake Catholic. They have 22 cases in the entirety of last year when they were masked. In the first week alone, they had 11 positive cases of COVID. They doubled their rate of infection in 1 week. They were home for 2 days, changed their minds, and everybody came back masked. Yes, there were people who were angry, but it's kept the kids in school, and they haven't had a positive case since. So that's all I'll say. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Aaron Fabian.
Not lifelong resident, but a 14-year resident of this township, and I have 2 kids that go to South Elementary School. I'm going to shorten up my comments just so we can get other people up here to talk. Basically, what I want to say is that I'm here to advocate for making the universal use of layered mitigation strategies, which includes masking, social distancing, cohorting of students, policy in our schools. Whenever you came on as school board members, your job was to establish programs and procedures that will produce educational achievement. When you do that during a pandemic, you add another layer onto it. And that means when you're developing policies, you need to intimately understand how COVID-19 impacts schools. You need to evaluate the scientific evidence and seek out consultation with public health experts when you identify knowledge gaps in your own understanding. In addition, you have to reevaluate your existing knowledge with new evidence where situations arise so that you're able to edit your programs and procedures. This is what tonight is, and I applaud you guys for taking this first step. So the first thing you need to do is understand how COVID-19 impacts our schools by evaluating the current scientific evidence, and I've provided you all multiple studies and emails and prior correspondence, and I encourage you to go back and look at those and evaluate them while you're making these decisions. Children can and do get sick from SARS-CoV-2 infection and can spread it to others. We've learned that when layered mitigation strategies are consistently used in school buildings, transmission in schools is much lower, even when there's high community spread. It's just what happens. So it's a good thing to do in schools. Since my last email to y'all, there have been a couple additional details or case studies that have come out. First one I want to highlight is a case study of an outbreak of the Delta variant in an elementary school classroom. A total of 27 cases were attributed to a single index case in that elementary school. It was due to a teacher who removed her mask to read aloud to her class, just an incidental removal of the mask. That resulted in, again, 27 cases and a 50% attack rate in her classroom. Also, a recent report on the impact of the Delta variant on pediatric hospitalizations was released last week. This report describes a 5-fold increase in pediatric hospitals since the end of June. The end of June was whenever we all released the Return to Learn plan. We are on an exponential upward trajectory. We looked at the Lake County incidence. At that time, it was about 20 cases per 100,000. We are now at about 250. We are 10 times the rate from that Return to Learn plan. The situation has changed with Delta, nationwide as well as in Lake County, and with that comes the responsibility to reevaluate your current plan. I'm sure you've heard this numerous times, but the next step is to seek out consultation from public health officials, and that includes all the organizations, CDC, ODH, Lake County Health District, American Academy of Pediatrics, that says universal use of mitigation strategies is what keeps our kids in school and what keeps them safe. During the last board meeting of the Lake County General Health District, Medical Director Dr. Patel advised their board that without schools employing masking and social distancing, this is where we'd end up. Quarantined kids, disrupted learning, sick kids. And of today, I just read a news story that the ICU at Rainbows is full capacity right now. So if we have a kid that gets RSV, anything, where are they going to go? So I encourage you to work to understand the current and relevant scientific information, listen to the experts, and be prepared to adjust your plan. That's it.
Thank you. Edward Jones.
You guys hear me? What are we doing? What are we doing? 8 people, 8 kids, 0 to 18, in 20 months in Lake County have died of COVID. 8. So you're asking my 15-year-old daughter to wear a mask every day. Don't get me wrong. My heart bleeds for the 8 that died of COVID. In the 400 nationwide, 0 to 18, slightly below 500 that have died of COVID. But what are we doing? Do you want our kids to look back on their high school years and see masks on their friends? Is that what you want? If you want your kids to wear masks, send them to school with masks or keep them at home. But don't ruin the high school experience of looks like 50% of the people in here. What are we doing? 2 kids tested positive. I understand that the quarantine thing is a pain in the ass. Don't follow the ODH. We'll support you. We'll support you. The lions will, the sheep won't. Everybody talks about studies. Well, I've got studies too that show that masks aren't effective. Right here. ICUs are designed to be at high capacity. They're expensive units to run. Jesus Christ.
One second, Mr. Jones. If we could please refrain from the clapping and all that stuff. I want to be able to have a full session, and we just got to be respectful of one another. So please do so.
Fear and politics are subverting science and reason. 2 kids tested positive for COVID. Sean, this isn't going away. It's going to continue throughout the year. What are we going to do? Okay, let's say we mask up, and next week 10 kids test positive, and then the next week 20. What are we doing then? Are we going to rescind the mask mandate? Stand up for your liberties, people. At the end of the day, you are responsible for your children. They're not. And I love, you're in a tough position. We've talked about this before. Take personal accountability for your children and your families. If you pass this mask mandate, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that every one of you is voted off this board.
I can agree with that.
Thank you. Thanks, Ed. Ricky Belcher.
My name is Ricky Belcher. Many of you know me. I'm born and raised born and raised in the community. My husband as well. I'm just here today to gain information knowledge and understanding. From the forefront of the COVID pandemic, starting, I tried my best to stay knowledgeable and informed on what I personally can do, not only for my family, but for all of my employees, and to help keep them safe as well as customers safe inside of our community. And quite frankly, I'm here at an impasse today because I don't quite understand the decisions that are being made that are leading to these quarantines. It just quite frankly doesn't make sense to me. As it's already been stated, 2 people test positive, 300 students learning and education in life was interrupted because of that. Multiple businesses in the community had to close down the next day because they had staffing issues. Parents weren't able to go to work because they had to be at home to attend to children that were placed in quarantine out of an abundance of precaution. So I would just quite frankly like to understand too a little bit more, where are the stats that are coming through to support this, and then not to mention all of these students that are being asked to either go get a test, and if they test negative, they can return. We're flooding the facilities for people that may actually need tests due to actual illness when it comes to symptoms. And you can't get tests right now. You're 3 days out, 4 days out. It's very, very challenging. So quite frankly, I just am really confused and I'm not quite understanding why we're here. Why are we following this protocol? I understand it's a recommendation, but quite frankly, it doesn't make sense. I don't understand why we're not following symptoms and positive tests. And that's really just it.
Thank you. Larry Armstrong.
Good evening. I didn't intend to wear my mask tonight, but it's one of my favorites. It's from deliberation, and I decided I would share that with the board. Anybody can wear a mask any way they want. If the motion goes through and our children are forced to wear masks, exactly what type of mask? Exactly how are they going to be trained to wear them properly? I would assume that you've got to call into the Lake County Board of Health or Ohio Boards of Health to ask for assistance, maybe a couple thousand masks, maybe some trainers to come to the schools. I mean, if we're going to do this, you have to do it right. We're not going to do this for show, to look good, to avoid a quarantine. We don't want to make decisions like that. If you do it, mean it. Do it to save lives and to minimize this pandemic. Also, this isn't about masks at all. This really isn't about masks. It's about emotion. There's an emotion in this room. It's fear. And people here it's so palpable in this room. Everybody's afraid. Everybody's afraid of something. I'm afraid. I'm afraid that our country is being divided by evil forces, by our enemies. There's the old saying, divide and conquer. We're being divided. And we're falling right into somebody's playbook here. There's times when this country has been united 20 years ago. On 9/11, the anniversary is coming up, this country is united. All standing, singing, God bless America together. What happened? What happened to that? A disease? Fear is a currency for politicians. It's a currency for the mass media. It's a commodity. They trade in it. They work it. They use it to gain power, to gain influence, and to gain ratings. And we're all being manipulated by it. We're just a piece of that puzzle. And it's fallen down to the local level, and here we are. We have to decide if we're going to have our children be used as pawns in some political chess match. And I pray for the wisdom people need to make the best decision. I sat on this board for 6 years. I never had a hot potato like this. So I really wish you the strength and wisdom to make a good decision. Back to fear. 90 years ago, almost 90 years ago, in the middle of the Great Depression, the country was afraid. The economy was collapsed. People didn't have food, people didn't have shelter, and didn't know what to do. The great president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, in his inauguration speech said, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself." How true does that ring? I want to put in a little context here, because that's easy. Those are the easiest words to remember, but the whole quote goes, "So, first of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror which paralyzes needed efforts to convert retreat into advance." How true. Well, me not having, or being bright enough to analyze this, I know the feelings it stirs in me. Thanks to homeanalysis.com, that speech was charged with the rhetorics of hope and courage. This phrase, "nothing to fear but fear itself," is a reference to the sensation of fear that is the worst enemy of humankind. It keeps one aback and troubles one's soul. My soul is troubled, but I'm not standing back. We have to face this fear. We have three choices. You run and hide from it, you confront it and make a deal with it, or you confront it and fight it. So when you're making your vote tonight, it'd be really nice to know which one of those choices you're using to deal with this fear. Thank you.
Thank you. Victoria Nadbath.
Hello, my name is Victoria Nadbath. I am truly encouraged by the turnout today because regardless of which side of the mask issue that we are on, adults have shown up to advocate for children. I'm invested in our school community in every way, and I truly want what is best for the children of Madison. I'm a Madison resident of 35 years, a Madison alumni. I have a young son who attends the Madison schools. And I'm an elementary teacher in this school right here. Today, I speak to you as a parent and a community member. All of us in here, we share a common goal. We want our children to stay healthy and safe, while also staying in school in person. We have to ask ourselves a question, or a few questions. Is what we are doing now working to achieve this goal? Are we doing everything in our power to keep our students healthy and safe? Are we doing everything in our power so our students can stay in school? While you ponder the answer to these questions, I would like to give you a visual to what the Cleveland Clinic calls the Swiss cheese model. This is a layered defense. And I brought a visual for you all. All right, so the first layer is the COVID-19 vaccine. The next layer is hand washing. We have disinfecting, distancing, and masks. When used together consistently, the holes or the weaknesses in a single layer of protection should be offset by the strength of another layer of protection. Vaccination isn't an option for children under 12 years old like my son. This takes him from 5 possible layers of protection to 4. The current optional masking policy has caused my son to be one of the very few in his class to wear a mask. The CDC says the primary purpose of masks is to reduce emission of virus-laden droplets. They also reduce inhalation of the droplets by the wearer. However, and this is the important part, the community benefit is but due to a combination of these effects. Individual benefit increases with increasing number of people using masks consistently. So now, my son and other children under 12 have gone from 4 possible layers of protection to 3 layers. Because no single tactic is 100% effective, it is important to use as many measures as possible together to add layers of protection. Today, board members, you can follow through and give my son and all the children in our school community an extra layer of protection and support a culture of safety. Let's follow the guidance of the health experts this time and require masks for all students, staff, and visitors regardless of vaccination status, so the Madison school community can finally be fully protected and stay in school.
Thank you. Phil Young.
Good evening. My name is Phil Young. I've lived in Madison my entire life, since 1976. I've attended all Madison schools. I've coached Madison sports. I've coached many sons and daughters of the people in this room. And I always tell my parents, I will never leave Madison, and I won't leave them, because I love Madison. So, back to fear. In the beginning, everyone was afraid. I was afraid. We didn't know what was going on. I thought, hey, why not wear a mask? Seemed reasonable enough. But then as time goes on, you learn. And punishing our children by making them wear masks that simply do not work does not seem reasonable to me. Through contact tracing, the majority of children that have come down with COVID-19 have got it from their parents at home because their nasal receptors are so small. They typically, not 100%, do not carry a heavy enough load to give it to another person. Well, I went to the drugstore today, looking at masks. There was 4 different varieties of the blue masks that I see. So I looked at the children's variety, and on the back of the children's variety, it specifically said, this is not intended for antimicrobial or antiviral protection and or related use for infection prevention or reduction of related uses. And on all of them, it specifically said, you breathe easily while wearing these products. If we all can breathe so easily through the mask, how are they stopping COVID-19? COVID-19 is not the size of a marble. Especially in our youngest children, continuing to cover their face and be afraid of them, we're putting all of our fear on them. Because there are no easy answers, and this isn't going anywhere. This is going to be with us forever. Are we going to mask our little kids forever? Forever? It's not going away. The vaccine's not going to stop it. The sunshine doesn't stop it. The cold air isn't going to stop it. Now, a year and a half ago, I told my mom, I'm glad I don't have Governor DeWine's job. And I'm kind of glad I don't have your job. Not to say I won't try to for it someday, I guess, because I'm embarrassed to say this is my first school board meeting. But I love everybody in this room, and I love everybody's child in this room. And that is 100%, hands down, without a doubt. Because I am a Christian, and I love my fellow man. And I just don't know that throwing masks on little kids and tell them to get away from us, we're afraid of all afraid of the little kids, is the right thing to do. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I am. Thank you, and have a good night.
Tony Rogers.
My name is Tony Rogers, 7 in Madison, Ohio. I'm not going to give out my address. And I understand everybody's passions, I really do. I have a degree in science. Erin was a pharmacist, is a pharmacist. She didn't give you her credentials. All the other districts have done this. I don't understand if we love our children that much that we just can't. In fact, on social media today, somebody said the kids don't even have a problem with the mask. It's the adults that are having the problem. I mean, we have to think of the kids. Well, if you have those kids, that's
Where does it end? Where does it end? People's never end.
I stopped your time.
We're going to answer them. If she's going to turn around and address us and ask us questions, we're going to answer the questions. Where does it
All
end?
right. Just as I did with someone who had a different opinion, please respect the speaker, and then we'll try to get through this. Thank you.
What I'm saying is I think you guys are doing the right thing. I know there's going to be a lot of people that don't think but I think you are. Because when you made your initial decision, I don't know where the pressure was coming from, and I don't completely understand what happened over a holiday weekend that you changed your minds. Because the whole behavior is very odd. But I think we need to do this. I advocate for masks. It is a layer of protection. Look, if you ever stand in the sun and watch yourself talk and see all those droplets go flying out of your mouth. I mean, we mandate inoculations, do we not, to get into school? So I don't understand why we can't have this, and you guys are waiting till November to make a second decision, correct? Right? Well, you're not going to answer it, but it says on the thing that in November you're going to revisit this on the 23rd of November, which gives everybody an option to see, hey, what's going on? The problem is that you've got a bunch of kids that can't get vaccines. So what are you going to do? There's only 7 deaths. God forbid if that was my kid or anyone's child. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. That will end our public participation portion for tonight. I'm sure we do, but our board policy allows for 30 minutes. We've heard from folks on both of them. So we're going to move on.
Listen, you people are going to listen. You called this an emergency meeting at the last minute, hoping people wouldn't show up, and now the pressure's coming down on you, and you want to end it. And you're not going to. You're going to listen to what we have to say. I know some of you obviously support masking, and some of you can shake your head all day. But if you guys keep this up, you'll be out, you'll be out, you'll be out, you'll be out, especially you, and you. And when I get hyper-focused on something, I will make it my mission to do it. You will all be out. All of you. And that means you'll be fired too. If you go down this road, I wouldn't do it. Because you have a lot of people in this town who are not going to put up with this stuff. The game is over.
Thank you, sir. As our board president said, we are now concluding our public portion. I would like to, is it all right if I first want to speak? All right, I do thank everyone for coming this evening. I would like everyone to know that I am responsible for the late notice. After the events at the high school last week, and yes, there was only 2 positive cases. 2. However, many children's education was interrupted. I needed to take some time
to think and evaluate my position. And quite honestly, to pray about it. And that may be taboo in a school board meeting, I really don't care. For me, it is not about whether masks work or don't work. My personal opinion is not what it matters here, truthfully. And I do very much believe that a parent's right to choose what is best for their child's health and mental health. I do.
That's the end of it, right there. Parents if you say but, then it's completely
I'm going to say however. Because the primary purpose of a school board is to ensure that children in our community are getting the best education possible. With the current extensive health department recommendations, and I will read from you an ORC that says during an epidemic, we are to cooperate with the health district.
Wrong. State legislator is the only one who can make law in the state of Ohio.
I'm sorry, but there is an ORC that says public schools are to cooperate with the local health departments.
Recommended to cooperate. They are not required. Legislator is the only body in Ohio that can pass.
I'm going to continue now.
Governor or the health director cannot pass law without the legislature signing off. You better start telling what you need to know.
All right, with the current extensive health department recommendations for quarantine children in schools, many of our children are not getting the best education possible. We are not doing right by our kids by booting them from school for 10 days at a time, each time they come in contact with an infected individual. With that being said, my vote will reflect what I feel is right for education.
Announce your vote publicly.
And that is my...
Makes sense. I work in a hospital, and if
I
my
will,
child,
it will be,
if
and
my
I will,
child has COVID-19 and I have
as you know, we will revisit this in November. I don't know yet what the other people are going to vote.
As long as I'm asymptomatic, I'm stuck at work. Your quarantine rules do not make any sense. Logic and reason.
The public participation portion is over.
That's okay. You know what I want to say.
And again, I take the blame for that. I needed the weekend to think about this, I did. All right, this is not a question and answer session. I'm going to continue reading my statement.
And we're going to rebuttal.
I will for further propose that, and again, we may not like this, I'm going to further propose that we screen and temperature check our athletes prior to practices and games. I realize not everyone will agree. Many have strong beliefs and opinions. I do want everyone to know that this was not an easy decision for me. It is not a political decision for me. I am not.
What does it
I know. We are not getting money for quarantines. We do.
Every school system in Ohio is getting money.
We get.
You might want to check
All right,
that.
and that's the end of my statement.
This is ridiculous. Can we just listen?
That's the end of my statement. Any other board members have a statement they want to make?
Get to the point. It's a vote.
Remember, there's no going back on this vote. But I think
We're going to revisit it in November, and that will be.
Is it possible just to have some respect and civility?
Nope. Not anymore. You got to respect what we have to say as well. This is an emergency public hearing. Our voices need to be heard.
I absolutely did.
We don't get a weekend.
And you know what? I think at this point that we should just take a vote.
And I think you should take a vote for all of the parents of the kids in your district and let their voices be heard about their children's education, not your choice for their education.
Okay. All right, my opening comment was, and I'm the minister, maybe I should pray. I did want to thank you for making your voice known. It is important. This is public education, and we're here to serve you, and we're here to serve your students. So I want to thank you for sending me articles. You send me articles on masks and vaccinations and natural immunity. Most of those of you who emailed me were highly respectful and kind in the way that you exercised your civility. Some maybe not so much, but that's okay. You made your point known, and I appreciate that. It is harder today to be respectful toward those who we disagree with, because we're living in a day and age where I, as a minister, have not seen the kind of anger that is displayed in society today, and we are polarized for sure. And personally, I've seen this mask or no mask divide families, churches, school boards, and friends, countries. And we're not going to please everybody. But we're really not Madeline and Cruella de Vil. We're really not. We're trying to all do. And I don't question, and though I'm going to disagree, I am going to disagree with some of my colleagues. I have the utmost respect for their motivation and their desire to serve the students of our community. And I'm not going to question their motivation on that, though I'm going to disagree. And I don't want to demonize those who disagree with me. Those who vote no masks are not unconcerned about child safety. And those who want masks are not trying, I don't believe, in the heart of hearts to take away my individual liberty. I think you're just concerned about your kids. I have friends at Geneva, I have friends at Perry, both teachers and in the administration, who care deeply about their children, just as we do. But right now, they have a no mask policy, and other school districts in Lake County do. I've received information from you on the proven scientific evidence of mask effectiveness from the CDC, pediatric studies, and articles from you on the unproven, just the opposite. And I've listened to epidemiologists, I've listened to doctors, and I don't think anybody can truly be fair and say you haven't listened to at least one doctor take an opposing view. It's confusing. Ever since Fauci flip-flopped on his view of masks, there's just been a lot of information out there. I know doctors in Madison that disagree, and epidemiologists that disagree. But where I'm going to put my emphasis tonight is in a little different area, and that's on the quarantine. And I am going to address some of the concerns I heard about that. And I believe that everything that is done for the welfare of the parents and the children. So we shut down the high school because of 2 confirmed cases. And because of a commitment, a good commitment, to contact all the parents. The amount of parents and contact that needed to be made was 300 down to 250. And that just became overwhelming to them, and so they decided to close. And I've talked with them about this because I believe the healthiest teams can have spirited, productive conflict, if you please, and make an opportunity out of that and get better. So I've checked the Ohio Department of Health guidelines as our superintendent sent us. I checked with Geneva administration and the Perry administration, and they do the Ohio Department of Health guidelines like we do. There was only one difference, and this is what resulted in the shutdown. It was the 250 students, right? It was that needed to be contacted. However, that was a good faith effort on the part of the administration, but not a requirement of the Ohio Department of Health guidelines. The Ohio Department of Health guidelines say that 15 minutes within a 3-circle, a 3 feet circle, what other school boards do and administrators in the policy they have, that if somebody in a high school tests positive for COVID, they quarantine those directly around them based on seating. They then call the parents. And so what was 250 or 300 could possibly have been 30 or 50. And so this could be done with 90-minute classes as well. So what am I saying? What does this do? If we just continue to follow that quarantine recommendation from the Ohio Department of Health, it will lessen the burden on our administrative officials to call 250 parents. We can find another way to do that. It mitigates the number of students missing out on educational opportunities. So now you have 30 missing out, sent home with a Chromebook, rather than 250 affecting the businesses. It quarantines those who should be quarantined. It honors personal responsibility for those teachers and high school students who wish to be vaccinated and wear a mask. If you want to get vaccinated, get vaccinated. You want to wear a mask, wear a mask. It honors those, however, who don't and want to respect natural immunity.
Choice.
I also believe that masking students for the 7 hours they're in school is unnecessary when the society in which we live does not require them at football games or Walmart or anything else. And so we've got them for 7 hours. They've got 17 hours out of that. And I don't know enough of the facts to know if the one teacher that had the virus after receiving the vaccination and wearing a mask still came down with COVID. Did she get it from a student in the classroom? I don't think so. I think she got it outside the classroom. Also, if you really truly believe that this is not all political, if you believe that, like I do, that we have Democrat, Republican legislatures in Columbus, not everyone is motivated for political gain. There's got to be at least one or two down there that have a scientific background, that have knowledge, that they're not dummies, and where we're at in our society right now is recommended, not mandated. And lastly, well, maybe two things. I don't know why, and some of you can inform me. I don't know why. I had one of the hardest moments of my life last night when I had to go to the emergency room for somebody that I love and respect that had a massive heart attack, and I'm 2 feet away from him in the ER. And I'm with his spouse. They never asked for my vaccination card, but they let me in. And I can remember a year and a half ago, I couldn't get into the ER. So something has changed. And the spouse didn't have a mask on, and not once did the doctor or nurse ask for a mask. I don't know. Part of the problem, and here's just an aside note for your FYI. There's such a thing called the sunshine laws. The sunshine laws make it very difficult for us to act as a team. We can never get together as a group to talk because it always has to be a formal meeting. We don't get to talk, so what we are left with is a text message from one another, how you feeling, but we don't, so that's why I'm uncomfortable. I'm even uncomfortable with this process that 30 days ago we made a decision and here we are, less than 30 days. Yes, we should evaluate it maybe every 30 days, but I don't, that's a different thing. So my vote, no mask mandate.
Hi, I'm Brian Warbath. I have 4 kids in the district. Phil Young, you coached quite a few of my kids. As you can see, I'm not a big mask guy. Whatever decision is made tonight, it is not forever. We will revisit it and adjust as necessary. Quarantining methods cannot continue. We heard that from people in the audience as well as some on the board. My biggest concern is that the teachers, 2 working parent households, and the kids need consistency. You can't go home every day wondering, is tomorrow going to be a snow day for 200 odd days, right? So given the quarantining, and I know that some people said that, and I appreciate that, we'll have your back if so-and-so comes after you, but I don't know. I'm the new guy on the block. I mean, I'm learning a lot. I've been on just a year now, and I'm sitting in front of 50 some odd people and we're having this discussion today. I'm thankful for it actually because I think I can help. But that's my thing is that we need consistency,
And given the rules that we have now with the different departments, I just don't see that. I mean, and something's got to change on that front.
We're not voting yet. We will in just a minute. Oh, we will take a vote in just a minute. Do you have a statement you'd like to say?
I'll try to be brief. You know, in June, when we created this mask optional policy, you know, we had overwhelming support in the community, and I know I've been criticized for having said that, but, you know, people say, well, how do you know that? Well, I live in this community, and I go to Walmart, and I've been to graduation parties, and I've been to the library, and I've been all over. And the community is virtually maskless when you go out in the community. And so that's how I know that the community supported that policy. Now, I realize that things have changed a little bit. Septemberfest went off without a hitch this weekend. Is that an essential function? Going and having drinks, and it was a 21 and over event. It's a nice event, I'm glad it happened. But it went off without a hitch. My son is a senior in the marching band. And I love my son, I don't want him to be sick. But I don't want someone else telling me that I have to put a mask on my son and send him to school. I don't think it's right. And I understand why my other colleagues will. And I want to make this clear that when this vote's over with tonight, we're going to come back, we're going to have a meeting in a couple of weeks. And I respect every one of the people to the left and to the right of me. And I think they're good board members, whether they agree with me on this one vote or not. I know it's an important vote, and I know everybody feels strongly about it. But we have a good administrative team, and I respect my board members. So that's going to end up board reports for the evening, and we're going to take a vote. 2021, at such time the board will meet to review the plan. Any discussion? Roll call.
No.
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
Ryan Horvath. Dean Sensi. John Douglas.
No. Is there a motion to approve a blended learning declaration for the 2021-22 school year in the event the district would have to go remote due to COVID-19? Mr. Hardy's asked me to explain that. This is, you know, an opportunity for the district, in the event it is needed, to begin remote learning, whether that be individually in classrooms because a classroom had to be quarantined, or if the district needed to go that way. And again, there's no plan currently to go remote as we did during the pandemic in April of last year. Yeah, we have to have the plan on file with the Ohio Department of Education in case we need it. It's just an opportunity in the event we need it. Hope we don't. We have a motion? Any discussion? Roll call.
Michelle Hayes. Yes. Ryan Horvath. Dean Sensi. Yes. John Douglas. Yes. Michael Howery.
Yes.
Motion 5-0.
Is there a motion for adjournment? Any discussion?